Dive into 5 real-life tales of unsettling deaths at North Cascades National Park that will send shivers down your spine. Join us as we unravel the mysteries behind these tragic events, exploring the secrets hidden within the park's beauty. Get ready for a journey into the unknown as we uncover the chilling truths of North Cascades. July 23, 2008, marked the beginning of what was intended to be an adventurous escapade for Kathleen Terzak, a 50-year-old woman from Elkton, Maryland, and her husband, Bob Terzak, 58. As they were experienced mountaineers, the couple set off on a week-long trek through North Cascades National Park, Washington, fueled by their shared love for the outdoors and their desire to explore the wilderness. Kathleen's life before this fateful journey was one marked by achievement and dedication. Born in Wilmington, Delaware, she graduated from Mount Pleasant High School in 1976, before going on a journey of education and professional success. After obtaining an associate's degree in the sciences from Delaware Technical and Community College, Stanton campus, Kathleen began her career with Stewart Pharmaceuticals, later acquired by AstraZeneca. Her tenure spanned over 25 years, during which she rose to become an associate scientist, earning the respect and admiration of her colleagues. Outside of her professional life, Kathleen was known for her adventurous spirit and passion for outdoor activities. Running, golfing, and maintaining her fitness were integral parts of her lifestyle. However, it was her annual excursions to the mountains with her husband Bob that brought her the greatest joy. Together, they explored the vast wilderness of the western United States and the Pacific Northwest, forging unforgettable memories while exploring nature. As the Terzaks went on their journey into the North Cascades, they were met with unforeseen challenges. The weather, initially forecasted to be mild, quickly turned hostile, with wet, windy conditions making their descent risky and dangerous. In the midst of this adversity, tragedy struck. Kathleen slipped on the rough terrain, and Bob, witnessing her fall, was powerless to prevent it. She plummeted past him into a deep moat formed by snow melting away from a rock face. Despite Kathleen's injuries, Bob sprang into action, hauling her 35 feet up from the bottom of the moat onto the glacier. However, her condition deteriorated rapidly, and she slipped into unconsciousness. With the elements growing fiercer by the minute, Bob made a tent and did his utmost to shield his wife from wind and rain, cutting away her wet clothes and bundling her in their sleeping bags. For a harrowing 24 hours, Bob fought tirelessly to save his wife's life, administering CPR until exhaustion overcame him, and Kathleen succumbed to her injuries on Sunday evening. The loss of his beloved Kathleen weighed heavily on Bob's heart as he faced the daunting task of seeking help in the middle of the unforgiving wild. On Monday, Bob went on a perilous journey to find help, traversing glaciers and rough lands for 10 to 12 hours. Battling fatigue and the elements of nature, he finally reached the north bank of the Cascade River, only to face yet another challenge. Attempting to cross the river, Bob fell into the water and became ensnared beneath a log, narrowly escaping drowning. Despite his injuries and the challenges he encountered, Bob continued, eventually finding help and alerting authorities to Kathleen's whereabouts. However, bad weather delayed the recovery efforts until Thursday, when Kathleen's body was recovered from the tent pitched atop Klawati Glacier. The tragic demise of Kathleen Terzak left a profound impact on her loved ones and the community at large. Questions lingered about the circumstances surrounding her fall and the challenges faced by Bob in his desperate bid for help. What if the weather had been more favorable? What if they had chosen a different route? And most hauntingly, what if Kathleen's life could have been saved? As the investigation unfolded, these questions remained unanswered, leaving behind a sense of sorrow and loss. Susan Bennett, a 61-year-old woman from Bellingham, Washington, had a profound love of the mountains that spanned over a decade. She wasn't just a casual hiker, she was a dedicated climber, a beloved member of the mountaineers community, and an inspiration to all who knew her. Her story wasn't just about a tragic accident, it was about a life lived to the fullest. It was a dry yet cold morning in July 2017 when Susan and her companions set out on their trip into the heart of Washington's North Cascades National Park. The air was fresh, tinged with the scent of pine and anticipation, as they went on the torment-forbidden traverse, a challenging route that promised breathtaking views and exhilarating climbs. For Susan, it was a familiar path, one she had traveled many times before, with the grace and confidence of an experienced mountaineer. As they made their way along the south ridge of Torment, Susan and her team encountered the first obstacle of their journey, a sudden downpour that soaked their gear and threatened to dampen their spirits. But Susan was undeterred, her determination shining through as she rallied her companions and pressed onward toward their goal. For her, the mountains were more than just a playground. They were a sanctuary, a place where she felt most alive and at peace. As the day wore on, the weather cleared and the sun emerged from behind the clouds. It was a moment of peace and rest amidst the chaos of the climb, a reminder of the beauty that surrounded them and the privilege of being able to experience it firsthand. For Susan, it was a moment of pure joy. But as they approached the notch below the west ridge of Forbidden Peak, something tragic happened that would change everything. In a split second, Susan's world was turned upside down as she lost her footing and tumbled down the mountainside, her screams echoing through the valleys below. It was a moment of sheer terror as her companions looked on in horror, powerless to stop the inevitable. As Susan's body disappeared from view, her companions sprang into action, activating an emergency beacon and summoning help from the authorities. But as they waited for help to arrive, they couldn't help but wonder, what if they had taken a different route? What if they had turned back when the weather took a turn for the worse? What if they had never gone on this trip in the first place? For Susan's friends and family, the days that followed were filled with anguish and uncertainty as they waited for news of what happened to her. The authorities launched a rescue mission, braving the dangerous terrain and unforgiving weather in search of any sign of Susan's whereabouts. But as the hours turned into days, hope began to fade, replaced by a sense of resignation and acceptance. Finally, on August 12th, nearly 3 weeks after Susan's fall, her body was recovered from the depths of a crevasse on Forbidden Glacier. It was a bittersweet moment for her loved ones as they struggled with the reality of her loss and the finality of her passing. As her friends and family gathered to say their final goodbyes, they couldn't help but reflect on the legacy that Susan had left behind. She wasn't just a climber, she was a teacher, a mentor, and a friend. Her love for the mountains had touched the lives of countless individuals, inspiring them to reach new heights and overcome their own obstacles. And as they looked out over the majestic peaks that had claimed her life, they couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude for the time they had shared with her and the memories they would carry with them forever. In the end, Susan's story was not just a story of the dangers of climbing. It was a celebration of a life well lived, a life dedicated to pursuing her passions and embracing the beauty of the world around her. And though she may be gone, her spirit lives on in the hearts of all who knew her, forever immortalized in the mountains she loved so dearly. On a warm Saturday morning in September 2020, Lieutenant Adam Lowell Johnson, a 29-year-old naval aviator stationed at Naval Air Station Whidbey Island, woke up with excitement bubbling in his chest. Adam had been looking forward to this day for weeks. He planned to go on a solo hike on the scenic trails of Vesper Peak in the Washington Cascades. Adam wasn't just an ordinary guy. He was someone who loved adventure and cherished the great outdoors. He had a passion for exploring new places and experiencing the beauty of nature firsthand. As he packed his backpack with essentials, water, snacks, a map, and a first aid kit, he couldn't help but feel a sense of exhilaration coursing through his veins. This hike was going to be an adventure he wouldn't soon forget. With a quick goodbye to his girlfriend Nicole, Adam set out on his journey, his heart filled with anticipation. The trail was quiet as he began his hike, the only sounds being the rustle of leaves underfoot and the occasional chirping of birds overhead. Adam felt at peace as he immersed himself in the beauty of his surroundings, the towering trees and majestic mountains, inspiring a sense of awe within him. As the hours passed, Adam continued to make his way up the mountain, each step bringing him closer to his destination. He paused occasionally to take in the breathtaking views, snapping photos to capture the memories of his adventure. But as the sun began to dip below the horizon, Adam realized that he had lost track of time. He had been so captivated by the beauty of the wilderness that he hadn't noticed how late it had gotten. Panicked, Adam quickened his pace, eager to reach the summit before darkness fell. But as he navigated the rocky terrain, disaster struck. Adam lost his footing on a slippery patch of ground, his body tumbling helplessly down the steep slope. He tried to grab onto something, anything, to stop his fall, but it was no use. With a sickening thud, Adam landed at the bottom of the slope, pain shooting through his body. Hours passed, and Adam's absence did not go unnoticed. Nicole grew increasingly worried when he failed to return home, her mind racing with worst-case scenarios. She called the authorities, desperate for any news of her missing boyfriend. Search and rescue teams were dispatched to scour the mountain, their efforts hampered by the fading light of day. It wasn't until the following morning that Adam's fate was revealed. A helicopter crew spotted his lifeless body submerged in a creek, the rushing waters claiming him as their own. The news shocked the community, leaving loved ones reeling from the sudden loss of a cherished friend and family member. As investigators pieced together the events leading up to Adam's death, theories emerged about what had gone wrong. Some speculated that he had simply lost his footing and fallen into the creek, while others believed that foul play may have been involved. But regardless of the circumstances, one thing was certain: Adam's death was a tragedy that had left a deep void in the lives of all who knew him. In the days and weeks that followed, Adam's loved ones struggled to come to terms with their loss. Memories of his infectious laughter and adventurous spirit lingered in the air. But amidst the pain and sorrow, there was also a sense of gratitude for the time they had shared with him and the impact he had made on their lives. In the early hours of a peaceful August morning in 2022, the peace within North Cascades National Park was shattered by the sound of gunfire. It was around 4 a.m., when most of the surroundings were still asleep, that the first shot rang out, followed by a rapid succession of more, tearing through the silence. The park was suddenly thrust into the spotlight of tragedy. Among the towering trees of the park, a scene of horror unfolded. Park rangers, tasked with protecting the natural beauty of their surroundings, found themselves faced with a grim discovery. Along State Route 20, near milepost 128, they stumbled upon a horrible sight: the lifeless body of a man lying motionless in a pool of blood. The victim, identified as Robert M. Thompson, age 69, was a Seattle native with a deep love for the great outdoors. His passion for nature had led him to explore the wilderness of North Cascades National Park, seeking solace and serenity amidst the towering peaks and dense forests. But on this morning, his journey had come to a tragic and untimely end. As park rangers combed the area for clues, their attention was drawn to a nearby vehicle where a man sat in silence, his gaze fixed on the horizon. John Thompson, age 40, brother to the deceased, appeared calm and collected, his demeanor betraying no hint of the violence that had unfolded just moments before. Initial questioning yielded little information, with John Thompson claiming ignorance of the events that had transpired. He insisted that he had not heard any shots, despite the evidence to the contrary. But as investigators delved deeper into the mystery, the truth began to emerge from deception. Bloodstains along the guardrail and bullet holes in the metal told a different story, one of violence and betrayal lurking beneath the surface of the peaceful landscape. It soon became clear that John Thompson was more than a bystander in this case. He was the alleged perpetrator of a brutal and senseless crime. As the investigation unfolded, details of the events leading up to the shooting began to surface. John and Robert Thompson, once inseparable brothers, bound by blood and shared memories, had become estranged in recent years. Resentment and animosity simmered beneath the surface of their relationship, fueled by past grievances and unresolved conflicts. On that fateful morning, tensions reached a boiling point, culminating in a violent altercation that would end in tragedy. John Thompson, armed with an AR-15 style rifle, confronted his brother in a fit of rage, unleashing a hail of bullets that tore through the silence of their surroundings. The aftermath of the shooting shocked everyone, leaving friends and family members reeling in disbelief. How could such a senseless act of violence occur in a place known for its beauty and calmness? What drove a man to turn against his own flesh and blood with such brutal force? As John Thompson sat in jail, awaiting trial for the murder of his brother, these questions remained unanswered. Investigators continued to piece together the events of that tragic morning, searching for clues that would shed light on the motives behind the crime. But amidst the despair felt by friends and family, a glimmer of hope was found. Despite the tragedy that had befallen them, the community rallied together in support of the Thompson family, offering comfort and solace in their time of need. For in the face of unspeakable loss, it was the bonds of love and friendship that would ultimately prevail. There was a man named Luke Wilhelm who lived in Bellingham, Washington. Luke wasn't just any man. He was someone who lived and breathed the mountains. With his messy blonde hair and bright green eyes, Luke was hard to miss. He had a smile that would light up even the darkest of days, and a laugh that echoed through the valleys. He wasn't born in the mountains, though. He grew up in Maryland, far from the rugged terrain he would one day come to call home. But even as a child, Luke had a sense of adventure. He was always climbing trees and exploring the woods behind his house. It was no surprise when he fell in love with mountaineering later in life. After high school, Luke attended college in Ohio and Colorado, but he always felt a pull toward the mountains. He found himself spending more time outdoors than in the classroom, and eventually, he made the decision to leave college and pursue his passion full-time. In 2018, Luke joined Rainier Mountaineering Incorporated, RMI, where he quickly made a name for himself as a skilled guide and a beloved member of the team. He led expeditions up some of the tallest peaks in the world, from Mount Rainier to Denali, and he did it all with a smile on his face and a spring in his step. But Luke wasn't just a guide, he was a friend to everyone he met. He had a way of making people feel at ease, even in the most challenging of situations. His clients loved him for his patience and his positive attitude, and his colleagues admired him for his skill and his dedication to his craft. On March 6, 2022, Luke set out on a climb with a friend and fellow guide in the North Cascades. It was a beautiful day, with clear skies and a gentle breeze. The two friends were in high spirits as they made their way up the mountain, chatting and laughing as they went. But something terrifying happened when Luke lost his footing on a steep section of the climb and fell. His friend watched in horror as Luke tumbled down the mountainside, disappearing from sight in an instant. In the blink of an eye, Luke's life was cut short, leaving behind a grieving family and a devastated community. News of Luke's death spread quickly, resonating throughout the climbing community. Tributes poured in, with friends and colleagues sharing stories of Luke's kindness, generosity, and zest for life. He was more than just a guide. He was a friend to everyone who had ever had the chance to meet him. As friends and family gathered to pay their final respects, the true extent of Luke's impact became clear. He was more than just a mountaineer. He was a friend, a mentor, and a guiding light in a world often filled with darkness. And though he may no longer walk among us, his spirit lives on in the mountains he loved, forever a part of the rugged terrain that shaped his life.